Okay, hello, hello, hello. I'm back again. I'm not back again with my arch nemesis this time. Maybe this person will be nicer to me. Um, so we're here podding on Ripley, new show that just came out on Netflix. And I'm here with my cousin Shore. Hi, Shore. Introduce yourself.
Hi, hello. I'm sorry. I'm not a frequent podder, so my introduction is gonna be short and sweet.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. They'll know. I think they have enough time to know about you as time goes on anyway. So it's
Okay,
gonna
good, good,
be
good.
gonna be a fun one. Okay, so I'm just gonna plug some things at the start because I mean obviously I expect you guys to listen, but if you don't, you know, I guess I can't trust that you listen to the whole thing. So Invincible season 2 finale is out on the feed, the regime as well, which have my arch nemesis Bankole there as well as my sister in arms Lolade on out on Monday. And there's new coverage of this really fun show in Apple TV being the best uh, streaming provider, Sugar, Colin Farrell,
Right.
and that has begun on the feed as well with Ebuka TMT and Bankole. So a lot of fun. And then the episodes 5 to 8 on Ripley will be out on Monday as well. So if you love this, then you can count down your days. I think the episode drops at around like 1 a.m. So if you're like really eager, you can stay up and listen, waiting to hear what we're gonna say on Monday about Ripley. But yeah, Sherry, tell me what you have been feeling. Like what was your initial when you watched this? Like what came to
Oof.
mind?
You know, it's really one of those shows that really takes its time. If anything, I think this show takes its time deliberately, and I feel like it has a slow start and it's just a slower pace, but it really just takes its time. It's methodical about the way it moves. And I think overall it has such a beautiful way of doing things that
Mm-hmm.
it really had that impact on me. That it's like a methodical, beautiful, scenic.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to give it like just a complete synopsis in one word, but it was just such a
Exactly.
well thought
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
well thought. It's just well thought out. It's like such a you could see the cinematic brilliance behind it in its own
Mm-hmm.
ways, but it also has like those points of contention. But yeah, we'll get to those later though.
Yeah, we should. We should get to them. It's obviously Stephen Zaillian or
Yeah,
Zaillian, or I'm not
Zaillian.
sure, but Stephen Zaillian.
Yeah.
Let's just call him Stephen. He did this show and I think directed and wrote.
Hmm.
Not sure if he produced as well, but just fantastic style. He also did Schindler's List
Yeah.
and supposedly The Night of and a couple of other
Hmm.
things. So yeah, he
I think
definitely
like
has a
Irishman as
distinct.
well. Yeah.
Oh, really? Nice, nice,
Yeah. Yeah.
nice. Irish. I love the Irish. I really love the Irish. I mean, this is like a thing. I don't want to claim the Irish because I'll be like so Debris. Like, I don't know if the Irish will accept me, but if the Irish want to accept me, I really love you. Like, I want to be accepted into your community. Yeah, I would love a citizenship. But yeah, no, I love the Irish. They're the best. So yeah, even better. Um, what what you were talking about how you watched the film recently. So before we like kind
Yeah.
of go on, because if no one really knows, this is based on a series of books, and David Fincher made a movie called The Talented Mr. Ripley with Matt Damon,
Mhm.
Jude Law, I think Gwyneth Paltrow. So this is kind of a new adaptation of this book, you know, these books. So like what do you think are like the differences between the book and the TV show? What are your thoughts?
I think I think that that main difference, and you could probably see it in the way they make the decision making, is like they
Hmm.
know they have more screen time, they have more of your attention, so they can generally take those moments of like very key like storytelling points and be like, okay, we're gonna flesh this out,
Hmm.
um, and like I think they do that a lot in this in the sense of like they they take those moments of like, oh, this is
Hmm.
him
Hmm.
getting a passport. And it's like, okay, you're actually showing the whole thing of him making
Oh,
this
I
passport.
mean,
This is this is
I love that. I know you like talked about it like being a bit slow. And I love that because it's just like I just love that. It's like one of my favorite movies, Perfect Days, which is still in cinemas. If you want to go
Mhm.
watch Perfect Days, it's by Film Vendors, and it's really really good. But it's I love like process focused stuff, like when they're like showing you
Yeah.
everything. We'll talk about the major scene where they show you everything that happens.
Yeah.
So, like every
We definitely need to
single
talk about that.
movement, which is like fat crazy. Um, but yeah, you're right in terms of that. But I do think what it does is it allows the visuals like steam. It lets the visuals like
Exactly.
yeah cook. Like
Setting.
we're really letting
Exactly.
Steven cook
It's
in this. Like Steven's cooking with
yeah.
gas the
There's
entire
some
time.
beautiful visions. Cooking.
Steven doesn't know anything about microwave. Like it's full on like pressure cooker shit, like 24/7 with him. So yeah. Um yeah, so I agree. I think also another difference
Mhm.
I found was in terms of I think in terms of like the kind of the believability of everyone of
Mhm. Mhm.
Ripley as well. I think with this one they're more
Yeah.
skeptical and they also feel very more kind of more rugged and more grassroots. You
Yeah.
have the actor of Dickie within this show.
Yeah. Yeah, actually let me get up their names actually. So I
He
don't mess
Dickie within
around
this
with
show,
the actors.
Johnny Flynn, who did some like
Hmm.
really cool stuff. He's like been around for a while. He's a good old British dude, one of us, and he did Emma as well, which is I
Okay.
think one of his shining things. But I want to call out this TV show that he did on Netflix. Gosh, I've forgotten the name now. It's something to do with love or something like that. And he's so good in that as well. So I don't know. He I don't know. He's kind of more rugged, not as clean cut
Hmm.
as the actors within the movie as well. I think that adds a like nice layer to it because this is quite
Yeah.
like a like sinister, a bit zany as well, like weird show. So I think that makes it kind of fun. Um,
I
but
think yeah.
yeah,
I feel like that's Vicky and Andrew Scott, like their acting is probably a good
hmm
difference to point out because
hmm
like so Johnny Flynn's version of
yeah,
Dickie Greenleaf compared to I think Jude Law's version
yeah,
is like it's
yeah.
such a
I've
different
just
like
that he was on Lovesick. Lovesick was where he was.
lovesick.
Where he was on.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hello, producers. A little
The,
producer has popped in to help us with that. Thank you. Yeah,
um,
Lovesick, and he was
yeah,
really good on that, and he's really good at acting that kind of a certain version of male I've come across a lot, very like somewhat confused, like not really knowing what they're doing, slightly
gullible.
like insecure about things,
Yeah,
but like also like
yeah.
really assessing themselves and their character a lot. Yeah.
See that? I can
So
see that.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, but you were talking about
just
the
to
differences in their performances before I
exactly.
interrupted you.
It's no worries. Yeah. So about like Johnny Flynn and Andrew Scott, the way they take a different take on Dickie and Tom compared to like Jude Law and Matt Damon is it's a lot more like realistic and in like more true to their core characters in the sense of the comparison, and that's in the sense of like Jude Law. is a bit more flamboyant, not flamboyant, but like a little more out there, like very rich person kind of like lifestyle, while Johnny Flynn seems a bit more. He's a more low key rich person in a way, but it's like more.
That's true.
Though you can feel the wealth more embedded in him. Like it just feels like the cores of these characters are a bit more well fleshed out.
Uh-huh.
Um, with Tom Flynn and Johnny Flynn and Andrew Scott, I think they do a better job of like, or a really good job of just fleshing out the characters' real core motives and behaviors. Which, yeah,
That's true. Like seeing them a bit as more multi-dimensional in a way, because
exactly.
I felt when I watched the movie that I didn't really get, and I will talk about Marge, which is I think a character
Hmm.
that's done way better in this show than it is
Yeah.
in the movie. But yeah, I just didn't I didn't really get to like the core of who they were in the movie as well. So I agree with
Hmm.
you 110%. And there is this, but I find quite interesting, which we probably should like raise on as we go, that idea of,
Hmm.
who's kind of more comfortable within their wealth. Because
Hmm.
you mentioned that point, which is one I noticed as well. Like, Jude Law's wealth is like more, out there, it's more
Yeah.
flashy, it's more outspoken. And you have, Johnny Flynn's portrayal as kind of more subdued. And I wonder if there is a
Hmm.
like, interesting thing that goes on with that we can
Exactly.
kind
Right.
of
Like I feel
look into. What do you say?
like I think like Jude Law's example of wealth is more like it feels like a Great Gatsby type, like very
I was gonna say that's
I'm
exactly what I was
I'm
thinking.
rich.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Do you
Like
feel like
it just
it's like a bit new money in an interesting way?
yeah, it's a bit new money in a way.
Like a bit
But
new money.
it's definitely
And I feel like
like
Johnny's is more kind of like, yeah, I owes money, but there is this sense, as we'll
yeah,
talk about, that he definitely is open to reassessing his own character. He's someone
yeah,
that seems to
exactly.
be taking on board criticism and questioning like who he is, and I think that's like a tool that you know um Ripley is using to basically
Hmm.
manipulate him and
Manipulate
kind of
him
endear
again. Yeah,
himself to him, the idea of the othering
yeah.
of self and stuff like that. So, um, yeah. So, if we're going
Hmm.
to like kind of give a general synopsis of what happens between the first and fourth episode,
Yeah.
what would you say in like a sentence happens? Because I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
In a sentence, Tom Ripley, uh, Tom Ripley is a scammer that finds his way into, wheedles his way
Confidence
into
trickster.
the
He's a
Dickie
confidence trickster. Yeah.
confidence trickster. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that wheedles his way into the life of Dickie Greenleaf and
hmm
ultimately absorbs him.
Like a parasite, slowly making
Yeah,
his way into the whole body of Ricky Greenleaf, taking everything he can,
everything
overtaking his body, his soul, mind, money, everything.
exactly,
He
everything,
doesn't stop until like everything is overtaken.
everything is his. Hmm.
Yeah, he gets, he gets the raging points of, psychopathy and being mad, and then I mean, I'm guessing anyone that has is watching is listening to this has watched these episodes. If you
Yeah,
haven't, then I mean, I'm sorry.
hopefully you've watched at least the first
I mean,
the
hopefully
movie.
you've watched
Then that'll
something.
be yeah, like
Spoiler
the
alert,
movie
I
just
mean,
yeah. Spoiler alert.
spoiler alert for anyone that impersonates anyone, death happens. What a joy.
What's a
And as
joy?
I've talked about it, I love a death in a show. Like it's like great. Like it always propels this plot and everything. So I'm
And
always
everything.
like, yeah, go off, do it. Um, so I was kind of happy that it came sooner than usual here. So we talked about it before about like
I would actually say
his.
it
Sorry.
took its time.
Do you
I
think
would even
so?
say it
Okay,
took its time. Yeah, they did.
let's actually discuss that. Like, let's
Like,
discuss that because I thought that it came quicker than I would have expected, judging by the fact that this is supposed to be an one. Is it a 6 episode
8 episode?
season or eight
It's a
episode
six episode.
season? I think it might be. It might be eight. Hold on, give me
Yeah.
a second. Yeah, it's an 8 episodes. I was right. An 8 episode
Okay.
season, and so like we're kind of halfway now. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, judging by that, I thought this is rather quick.
Okay.
You
To be
disagree?
honest, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not takes its time, but it's not quick. I think this might be just a bit, just about right. Because when you think
Okay.
about it as a halfway point, it's a
Hmm.
good heel turn. It's a good like not heel turn, but a good switch. It's a good pivot in that way. So it
Yeah.
is probably halfway mark does make sense.
Yeah, but
But I still yeah,
you did
yeah,
mention it being in general like quite slow, you know. Like do
exactly.
you
So
want to
that's
talk
that's the thing.
more about this criticism of the slowness of the show? Like why do you think that's the case, and in what ways do you think it could have, like, the pacing could have been better or something?
I don't no, I don't think the pacing is bad. In fact,
Okay.
I think for what it's trying to do,
You
that's
think the
probably the
pacing is
perfect kind
good?
of pacing. I think it works really well, but
Hmm.
it is slow.
Hmm.
That's just the way they wanted it. So because like for the
Hmm.
first episode, you pretty much you're just going from he doesn't even get to I think he just gets to Italy. I
That's
think
true.
it's
Yeah,
like
yeah. The first
he
episode
only so you've only
is a lot. I mean, there's a
is him
lot of
scabbing about
exposition. There's so much
exactly like
exposition in this show. But it's weird because there's so much exposition, and then at the same time there is this layer of mystery, in the sense that I wouldn't say
hmm
I know each character as well, or
hmm
I know the setting that we're in. I think there's this like nice
hmm
visual painting of the setting, and also we can talk about the paintings later, but there's this nice like
hmm
visual, landscape they're building, but I'm not able
yeah
to kind of like map it in terms of like the external life outside of what they're showing us, which I do think is a
hmm
strength of the show. It's like supposed to be like, a mystery, horror
yeah
kind of, you know. Um
yeah. I think
yeah,
that
I do agree
that
with you.
yeah, I think like that idea of mystery works really. It's like mystery and like suspense. I think suspense is probably the
That's
core in
true.
that sense of like they
Yeah, that's
have
the word.
they do a good job of like instead of like they this it's fair share of exposition, but like they do a good job of not doing exposition on the core things. So
Hmm.
if like if you want to know that what's the name Dickie is a bit apprehensive of Tom
Hmm.
Tom Ripley, yeah, then it's all done in facial features and body and positioning and blocking and like
Hmm.
distancing
Hmm.
and then and the way they're working and it's not like this very not this very oh I'm just going to tell you I don't like you. It's
That's true.
like more of like oh I'm gonna you're gonna see it from the way my body language and you're gonna
Yeah.
see it from the words
Subtleties.
I choose.
Hmm.
Exactly. The very subtle things about it. And it's in that case it's like it feels more real, feels more
Yeah,
realistic, like
it's
to like a conversation you can have.
very kind of nervy in a way.
Hmm
Um, I was thinking about that as I was watching it as well, of like kind of the subtleties, like the groundwork that they're laying, which makes me go like, where are we
hmm
going with this? So I think my
hmm
kind of hope with people watching is that although it is slow and not exactly for everyone, I think this
hmm
kind of speed of storytelling can be like quite off-putting for some people, especially because it's on Netflix, and Netflix is like a binge format as well. So
Yeah.
I would like kind of like maybe, you know, kind of push you to stick with it. I don't know what happens either, but I'm just hoping, I
hmm
like have a feeling that something um will occur soon. Um
hmm
but
Like
yeah, when you were talking about that kind of like quietness and below the
hmm
surface, kind of happenings, it reminded me of the portrayal of, like, if you've ever watched The Crown, of Prince Charles
I
as
have not.
Josh O'Connor. You haven't? Okay. Well, if anyone's watched The Crown, this is different. But as Prince Charles as Josh O'Connor, and then Dominic, literally blanked his name now, really famous actor, but Dominic West. Thank you. And then Dominic West, and like kind of like the kind of differences between both of them, and that idea of like assurance within yourself, and then that, kind of like insecure, kind of fun, like you
Mhm.
don't really know what you're doing, kind of thing. Um, but this is actually a really, really good segue to
Yeah.
us going through each of the episodes, because we were going to go
Yeah.
through each of the episodes through tracking through tracking his descent to madness, as they
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
um and how
Ooh,
he
actually, even on
walks.
that point,
Yeah, tell me.
I wouldn't say it's a like I wouldn't say it's a descent to madness, and more of like he's
Hmm.
already living in a madness and he's just like slowly going deeper into more madness. It's less of a sane to
Hmm.
mad and more of a
Yeah,
mad to a little bit madder.
I agree. And that's actually a really good point you mentioned that I completely forgot about. In When I watched the very first episode, I did think to myself, you know, there are some seeds of, a bit wacky, in the head behavior here. Like,
Yeah.
you're slightly like not okay as a human being. And I think also it didn't
Hmm.
help that his circumstance was not very good financially, and he was struggling.
Exactly.
There is this desperation
Exactly.
element as well. And let's be honest, if you push
Yeah.
anyone to a wall, who knows? Like,
Yeah. You
anyone
might
can
just get your
become.
identity stolen.
Yeah, like anyone could become a scammer, but no one's above scamming. Like, let's be real. Like, you're not better than the scammer that scammed you for, I don't know, with Apple Pay cards or something. I'm actually citing something that's actually almost happened to me before. So
Push
yeah,
anyone to the wall, you get your identity stolen pretty much.
yeah, literally push anyone to the wall. Like, you just have to get desperation in there, and then you never know what's gonna happen. But yeah, it's interesting
Exactly.
because I remember I was listening to a podcast with Nicola Walker, who has done a
Mhm.
lot of things, and I love her most on The Split. And she talks about this idea about actors. And by the way, you can decide how you want to react to what I'm saying here, whatever you want to take from it. But actors basically being like, they're often not the loudest in the room and the most like performative. They're often the really quiet people that study things, and
Mhm.
pay attention. And they're there, and they're like absorbing, and then they're kind of like learning, empathy and how to emulate that. And then, so they're often the most like insecure, kind of like quiet people. Not that I'm saying that all actors have the propensity to be a Tom Ripley, or you can take that as you wish.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting as I was thinking about that as I was watching it, in terms of what you were saying. Like, maybe it's not just this like sharp diving off the cliff descent. Maybe it is like
Yeah.
he already had it within him. It just was activated,
Yeah.
throughout the
I
show.
think like he was like in that first episode they jump into him like really scamming. Like he's doing like low card, not
Hmm.
card, because this is
Hmm.
like old. It's set in like the ninth. I don't know when it's set
Yeah.
actually, um,
Yeah.
60s. But
Hmm.
whenever it's
Hmm.
set, he's doing like
Hmm.
low on the phone scams where it's like, oh, you missed a payment. Can you pay me like twenty
Yes.
dollars
Yes.
to fix it? It was like
Yeah.
low
And then he
scams here
was
and
he
there.
was so sassy on the phone. He was so
Yeah.
sassy. He was like, "Do you want to pay me, or do you want me to get the
Hmm.
attorney involved?" And I'm like, I mean, can you relax? Like, there's no need for
Yo,
all of
I
this.
respect your I respect your
Like,
energy
I
because
respect
like
I respect the
you're the
hustle, but like, poor guy was like stressed on the phone. Like, he was so stressed on the phone. And he's like, "Do you want me to call an attorney then?" And then just is like, and then the guy's like, "No, no, 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 it's fine. I'll pay you." He was making grown men weak at the knees, like with
bro.
his. Yeah, he's definitely skilled at scamming.
What's the
I
what
got a bit
protocol?
confused, right? I got a bit confused
Yeah.
at the start, because I was like, why would you choose that person to go look for your son? Like that was my first thing. I was like, I get it, but I'm also like, maybe this isn't a good idea. But what did you think about the portrayal of his father, Dickie Greenleaf's father?
Okay, so that was I don't know because like when I first saw him in my head, I was like, I don't feel like this is. It didn't look like this is really great acting, but when I like
Hmm.
thought about it more, like it was just like he was just a that's he's just not a very like the guy is not meant to be very overly emotional. He's not meant to be overly
Hmm.
like he's just a very straightforward, stern business type, which is like okay,
Hmm.
cool. And it's like even it's what shipping and it's like a very gritty business kind of vibe. So
Hmm.
it's
Import, export,
exactly. So it's like
which can mean
okay,
a
fair
range
enough.
of things. Yeah.
It was good. I think like the parents especially. I think the mother was great. Um,
Yes, the
when they did
mother was
introduce her. Like she
great.
had an impact when she came in. Like I was like, oh damn, she actually.
Mhm.
I feel that for sure. Um, but at the same time, like yeah, the father just seemed like it just seemed too structured. But at the
Mhm.
same time, that
But I
worked. It
think that's
worked.
the thing of like, he talks about the father is played by Kenneth Lonergan. And yeah, he's in a lot of
Mhm.
stuff. I see him in
Oh,
loads of
okay.
things. And he wrote Gangs of New York and
So he's
Manchester by the
okay. That
Sea.
makes sense.
But yeah,
Okay, that makes sense.
he's in quite a lot of stuff. And it's interesting that you talk about that because I don't know. I'm having this kind of lately been noticing these differences between the American perception or reaction to wealth as opposed to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the British and the European in terms of dynasty and etc. And
Mm-hmm.
I found it quite interesting when he was speaking and when his portrayal of that portrayal of the father and his obviously immense wealth and just those kind
Mm-hmm.
of differences from like across the pond, with how they behave and
Yeah.
etc. And kind of like my own inhibitions like that make me look at someone a certain way because of like
Mm-hmm.
you know so yes, I agree with you. I did find it at first being like, do I really believe that this man
Yeah.
is in charge of all of this? No. And then
Exactly.
later on,
He did
later on,
seem like yeah.
it didn't make sense. I think it also makes
Exactly.
sense in context of the fourth episode, or is the third episode? I think it's the third episode
Yeah.
when Dickie talks about the father's apprehension,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that
That's
general
exactly it.
apprehension I think very rich people feel, when it's like, are you here because I have something that I can give to you? Are you here because you're actually going to help me? And then that idea of, because you're dealing with you know these really kind of like, I would say, pragmatic concepts. Most of the time everything becomes very transactional in a way,
Mm-hmm.
so like dealing within the transactional realm, and that becomes like your first language in that
Yeah.
sense. And it seems
It's
like interesting that Dickie doesn't want to come back to his family. And I think he is like fighting that push and pull of like succumbing to that world and
yeah,
being
I
that
do love my
person.
family and exactly.
Mhm.
Like he does you could see he it's not like he has anything against his family. There's no like it's not like he hates his family and wants to run away and
Yeah,
leave them
he
away
doesn't.
for like it's a very
It's
much
just like it's not necessarily like an active defiance. It's more of I just want my
mm,
independence, and I want to like do my own thing and be my own person and not
exact
be kind of like
hmm
chained to whatever you want me to be, or your expectations of
yeah.
me. So yeah, so we can, I guess, rightly so, it's not necessarily his descent to madness, but more so his morphing into another human being, essentially.
Person.
Like,
Exactly.
I
That's
guess
more of
that's
his
more
journey,
so
I
what
think,
it
in those first
is.
4 episodes.
More of a genre, some of it
Yeah.
like a metamorphosis of something. So yeah, so
Hmm.
how did you, like, when you left episode one, and everything is set now, we know what's going to happen.
Hmm.
He's been giving the robe. We can talk about the robe
Hmm.
and the significance of the robe in that. He's been giving this robe, which
Okay,
is, yeah, like,
he
let's
got
talk
to
about
think.
the robe,
I feel like
actually.
it's that. Yeah. I think the robe is like is that idea of like he's not gonna fit in. Like even like he can get the most expensive thing or like no matter what, it's not gonna. He doesn't know. He doesn't know that life for a rich person. He doesn't have those mannerisms because
Mhm.
the robe when he now brought it out to like to Dickie, he was like, oh, this is trash. When
Exactly.
when he brought it out to even
But
the
then it
designer or
also,
the shop seller, oh, this is trash
I
too.
think it
Like, why
also
you sure about
pointed
that?
out that kind of like generational divide as well. You know what I mean? In terms of
Yeah.
like Dickie's, although Dickie is not Mr. like Casanova, let's be real, like those trousers are too short. Like I just okay, I'm sorry. I know I'm always like here being
But I
like
think
I want to
that might be a time.
I know, but like I know I'm here like being like, oh, like, public PSA, PSA. But like honestly, PSA, like I wanna also this is like, please, no one should kill me for this. But another person we also know very well in this country, cough cough, our prime minister, also has a habit of wearing short trousers. And I just don't understand why people just can't measure the length of their trousers. It's not like I just don't understand it. I think this it definitely is a time thing. But I thought he like, he looked incredibly suave and like, dashing and cool, but like the trousers just took me out every single time. So I think when he was complaining about the rib, I was like, who are you to talk? Like, have you seen your trousers? Like, okay. But yeah, no. Do you think what do you think about the idea that obviously this show, we probably haven't mentioned this, and it's a
Hmm.
huge aspect of the style is shot, you know, not in color,
In
is
black and
shot in
white.
black and white,
Yeah.
um, and us not being able to see the colors of the robe. Do you think
Mm,
that added to this concept of the definition of wealth,
mm.
depending on
I think
perspective and stuff like that?
I think so. Especially the fact that the color of the robe was actually a big like that was a big sticking point in why no
Hmm.
one liked it. It was like this purple,
Hmm.
maroon color, but obviously we don't know that because we can't see the color.
We can't see the
So I think
color.
like
Hmm.
yeah, to us it's obviously like it's just a robe, but
It's just a robe,
um,
yeah.
but that idea of oh the characters can know that this is the difference between like oh this is what people of our class would wear and this is
Hmm.
not what people of our class would wear, and you could see that
Yeah.
from like the jump of when he was buying the robe to
Hmm.
when people got to see the robe, and it's like
Yeah.
yeah but to be honest it doesn't like it's not a good design, it's a bad robe. Like
I mean,
even just the general like
what's a good robe though? You know,
that's true, but if you're buying a
I
robe for Dickie
mean,
Greeley you know
sorry
that
to the
like in
robe
my head
wearers here, but
you know that that can't be a good robe. It can't be. It has like
no,
the
definitely
bandana
not.
pattern on it. Like
I know. When is the bandana pattern or not a bandana ever a good choice? Like, I'm
exactly.
sorry, like, when is that ever the case that it's useful? Like, I don't understand it and the logic in that, but whatever. Um, Yeah, no, I think that really helped. And I remember thinking when we couldn't see the room, I was like, actually, this is really good because what you're doing
Hmm.
is you're allowing us make our own judgment of
Yeah,
it. And I
yeah.
think that's what I really like about this show is throughout each of the episodes, we're allowed to make our own judgments in what you were saying in terms of
Hmm.
everything is beneath the surface, everything's within the subconscious. It's more like cognitive. It's not
Exactly.
necessarily obvious. They basically
Hmm.
trust the viewer's intelligence. And I like when a show
Exactly.
does that. It's like I can trust that you understand what I'm trying to show you. And then the best thing ever for anyone that creates anything is not just understanding it, but then also like having your own perception of it, and then also like
Hmm.
having different perceptions of that and playing with that too. So
Exactly.
yeah. So how do you think episode two, what changed for you episode two? Kind of like at this point, you're almost a quarter way through. Like, where
Yeah.
are we
So I
now?
think
Is he like
where are
American
we?
Psycho yet? Are you like, where is he?
So at this point, to me, he's like he's still trying to still trying to be that scammer. Like how do I work this con?
Hmm.
How do I get into this guy's life? Because episode two is like, oh, I'm gonna find him. He goes up and down the stairs. He's like, it's like
Mm-hmm.
wearing, still wearing his old clothes, but he's like, how can I get into this guy's life
Mm-hmm.
seamlessly?
Exactly.
Um,
It's like
and
master planning. You can see like the
exactly,
cogs turning in his
the cog's
head,
working in his head. He's trying. He's
you
doing
know,
everything. He's like, okay,
like he's
this
just
is
trying
what
to
I can
figure
do to get
everything.
this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually, the stairs thing that
but
you
like,
mentioned is
yeah,
really cool because I did note the stairs a lot and I was tracking the symbolism of the stairs. And the stairs are like their own
exactly.
protagonists throughout the show in an interesting way
Yeah.
because in terms of his capability of climbing up the stairs. And obviously I love stairs because I love architecture. So I love stuff like that. And like it's like, like
Oh,
it
you love this
transports
show. Then
you and
there's a lot of
I mean,
architecture.
of course I love this show. I love architecture. I also want my ashes poured in Sorrento. So I'm sorry, what's the show better for me? Like this is like me just getting off every day. I love it. Like it's amazing. So yeah, the stairs, and I think he starts off really struggling with the stairs, really struggling
Yeah.
with the stairs, and then he gets, he's able to climb the stairs more and more so, and then you start to see him more confidently climb the stairs. But it's also
Hmm.
what you're saying in terms of he's willing to climb up and down those stairs, you know,
Exactly.
to
He's
look
willing to
for
do. He's putting in the graft
he's
to put
gonna
it like he's
do he is a grafter. He is
yeah.
ready to do the work. um
That's the thing. Yeah.
yeah, so and it's just quite interesting because I also was thinking to myself, man, like how fit you must get walking up and down those stairs
Goodness.
every day.
You can always see the struggle in his face, like walking up
Like
the stairs, like every single
literally
time, and
like
it's like, yo,
walking up and down those stairs every day, like gosh, like the cows, honestly. um I
but
also noticed another thing, which was
yeah.
also tracked throughout the show, throughout these episodes, was Dickie's painting as well. And the
Hmm.
concept of paintings as well is really, really huge. Obviously, a it's not just, painting as like an art form. It's painting
Hmm.
as barter, it's painting as
Yeah.
trade, it's painting as, the painting itself of, of the whole show, and like creating this
Yeah.
landscape. And it's also like the symbolism of paintings. And we get to the fourth episode and we start talking about good old David and Goliath. Don't we just love, you know, David and Goliath, DNG? But
Exactly. And then
actually my
the version of
cacti,
David Goliath is like yourself.
literally, like that was good. And they were like, oh, and he's
Yeah.
looking at him, but it's also yourself. I thought
It's
that was really nice.
yourself. Exactly. It was that was really cool. That was really
It was
cool.
nice, and also the placing of it within the fourth episode was also kind of nice.
Really good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so the painting is also like a thing that is consistent throughout. What
Hmm.
did you think of like the relationship of Dickie to painting and kind of painting in general? Like if we'd kind of use painting as this kind of low motif that follows throughout.
So like, I think with Dickey and painting, I'd say it's more for me. It felt like this idea of really because he knows he's not good. Like only like
That's
he
the thing.
knows that
No,
he's bad.
that's the thing. That's the best part of it. The best part of it is Dickie knows he's shit, and I
Exactly. He
think
has a very
that's
good understanding of that.
what really endeared me to him. Is I was like, he knows he's crap, but he's still trying. He's still trying, and I
Exactly.
was like,
The boy is
oh, my
put in
heart.
an
Look,
effort.
he's still putting in the effort to try, and I think
Yeah.
it's the epitome of Dickie as a person, right? You know what I mean? Like
I'll
that
do
whole
what I
painting.
love. Like is
It's like,
yeah.
right, right. It's like I'll
Like
do
he
what I
loves
love.
paintings. He loves art. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go out
I'll
there. I'm gonna see art. I'll see what's the name? I forgot the artist. I'll see him 10 times. I'll go again.
hmm
And it's like,
hmm
yeah, he loves art, and you're like, oh, snap, he's passionate person. You
Yeah, he's a
appreciate that. You
passionate
appreciate that.
person, and like I think there is that kind of earnestness as well with his
Hmm.
his desire to create and his passion for design and stuff like that. It is There's an earnestness to him in the sense of like he is self-aware, and he's willing to take
Hmm. Hmm.
criticism. He's always turning around, being like, "This isn't working. What do you think of this?"
Yeah,
He
yeah,
wants to
that's true.
know what other people think, and he's not too like set in his own ways, which is a bit unnatural for someone of his caliber of wealth and someone who probably has had things handed to him, his
Hmm.
entire life in a way. And I do think that helps for us because it one ups the ante
Hmm.
because it makes it kind of like he becomes like our protagonist, and then you're like, oh, like you really want him to like do well. You don't want Ripley to like cheat him. You want him to live longer. But also I think it has this like really nice divide in between the absolute fake and the like deep desire to be real and like authentic.
Hmm.
Like that authenticity versus like, fakeness in the sense of
Weakness
Ripley is
of
trying
Ripley's.
so hard
So
to
hard to
become this
be that
guy,
guy. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And this guy is trying so hard to just be himself,
Be himself.
and he's finding that
Exactly.
really. So it's that thing of like, it makes Ripley's job even harder because obviously,
Hmm.
if he was not, you know, attempting to be this kind of like deep person, then
Hmm.
I guess Ripley's job is a bit easier, if that makes any sense. It makes Ripley's job way harder because
I feel
you're
like,
like,
yeah, like it's he's
mhm,
not just this caricature of like a rich person. He's like a
mhm,
very much like, okay, he has, you could tell his qualities very well.
mhm.
And Ripley, I feel like I feel like if you're trying to be someone who's so naturally what they are,
Yes,
it's they you don't have the quirks to follow of like, oh, they do this because of this.
yeah,
They just
exactly.
you're just like, they just do this. That's just their
Hmm.
natural behavior. That's just
Yeah,
how they
not
are.
everything is
Like,
like A plus B equals C, like end result
hmm.
type of thing. It's so
Hmm.
much more complex and so much more dependent on everything that life throws at us, like context and
You know.
etc. So that's cool. And yeah, I think another thing that was is also interesting is kind of like that is fantastic for Dickie's self development, but also
Hmm.
Dickie's sense of like seeking validation from others is
Yeah.
literally like the weakest
Self
link thing. It's like the thing that
like he's
you prey on. That's the thing the scammers, that's the thing the confidence tricksters love. Someone that is, really actually wants you to like them in that way.
so
And
it
I
was,
think that's what
yeah, he really does.
he really does. I think
I think,
that's what Ripley notices straight away. He's like, not
yeah.
only does he know
The
his
second
shit,
he
but he's,
accepted Ripley as well, it's like, yeah.
yo, he accepted Ripley so quickly. I was like,
Yeah.
even the housekeeper was like,
Bro.
why is this man here the
But
entire time?
to be honest, like, that's one of those things. I feel like that was a good key. They did that very well in the sense
Mm,
of, Ripley. It was like initially going like, okay, I'm gonna scam this person, and then he was like, let me just do the play of like, tell him what's actually happening. Your father
exactly,
paid me. This is what's happening, and he's
exactly.
just like, and then he opened up,
That
and once he
turn.
opened up, it was like, okay, that was it.
Hmm.
That's all he needed to open up, and now they're best friends somehow. But that's,
Yeah, I think it's the different stages of endearing yourself to Dickie, and I think it's that sense of othering in
yeah,
terms of he's basically going, no, 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 I'm not like them, I'm like you. I've identified
exactly,
something you don't like about this group of people, and I'm going to join you to, to
exactly,
kind of like ostracize them. And he does it.
exactly.
He does it furthermore when you meet Freddie, who is fantastic.
Yeah.
Come to my house
Mhm.
and come to my house in Switzerland, and like you meet Freddie,
This
who's
is one
who's
point where I'm like, I prefer the um the the movie character to the TV character. This is
really
one point because
fair.
like, I feel like the movie character was Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he was like,
Yes,
Philip Seymour Hoffman just played that so well. But
I
at the
mean
same time, it wasn't like,
the
I
goat.
think that's more of me just liking Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah,
That might
I
be
mean
that might be the case,
honestly,
but yeah, because the
honestly.
actor wasn't bad in this one, but
Yeah, I think he was playing like it's a different like volume being played. You know what I mean? Of different like
yeah,
tone,
exactly,
tone
yeah.
tonality. It was different. But yeah, no, and they're on their way back from
Hmm.
Freddie meeting them, and he goes, "Oh, you mentioned that Freddie was insolent and like this. I'm also super rich. Am I like this kind of thing?"
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
wonder if you think Ripley. was taken aback by that, or you think it was his grand plan, because I do think it's a very, very, that's like the next stage of othering, right? That's like
Hmm.
basically going, I'm identifying loads of similarities with you and this other person, but here's where you are different. Here's where you are the best thing ever. And no one, like,
Hmm.
that's like really endearing himself to Dickie, because Dickie is like feeling like, oh, like I'm super rich and like everything's handed to me, but I'm like really good as a human, and like I'm not like
Yeah,
them.
like,
I'm, you know,
and to be
yeah.
honest, what did Ripley say after that? I think he said something like, "You're the complete opposite of
Yes.
them," or something
Hmm.
like that. I was like, okay, this is he's doing that work. He's
Hmm.
putting
Like the
he's putting that
seeds,
work to, yeah.
being
He's like,
planted.
but at the same time, that also set the seeds. Like he set those seeds to kind of bring himself closer to Dickie, but at the same time, it
Mhm.
set those seeds to make Charlotte. Am I right to say Charlotte?
Marsh.
Marge. Why did I say Charlotte?
Hmm.
So to make Marge think,
Hmm.
okay, he loves Rick. He loves Dickie. Like he obviously this man is in love with Dickie. That's the only thing she concluded. It was like, obviously this man.
That's actually a really, really good, like, kind of nice segue into the following last two episodes. That
Yeah.
insane conversation, in the insane location. Just oh my gosh, like
Hmm.
he's so good at framing in this show. Like
It's
he's so good at
amazing. Is that's
proportion
the
and
it's so
scale,
good.
and it's just insane.
Scale,
Like there's
blocking,
so many
framing is just so
stills that
good.
you can stop and you're just like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, like human scale, like this is fun. This is like, I'm just like, wow, he's just so good at that. And that
it's
amazing
perfect. It's
scene
so good.
where he walks in, Dickie walks in
Hmm.
on Tom, speaking to himself, doing one of his little tit for tats
Yeah.
to himself.
Oh,
Basically,
that was so
pre-theater,
cringe
like,
worthy. I'm like, yeah.
and he walks in, and honestly, I can't tell you, Sherry, when that happened, and you know, he was doing it, I just had the feeling, and I paused because I have really terrible secondhand embarrassment, and
Yeah.
I just
Yeah. I did the exact same thing. Like in my head, I was like, I know what's gonna happen. I know what's gonna happen.
like,
So like, I'm not gonna lie, I did that like 10 seconds forward, 10 seconds back. I went like
yeah,
ten
yeah,
seconds
and I
forward just to show myself it happened and go back.
just frogging about, like, and I paused and
Oh
I was like, okay, I just take a breath, and then just take a breath and come back, and then maybe you can, like, I can handle this, and
yeah,
just
yeah,
like, and I mean, honestly, I low-key feel bad for Tom, because I don't know, like, if you didn't talk to yourself as a child, what were you doing? Like, we all did that, but at the same time, like, getting caught doing it is just really embarrassing. But this is a new level of
yeah.
embarrassing because he was basically like, oh, it was just terrible, and just, yeah. So
It was
like,
everything
what,
about it. Like
everything about the scene, and it was so eerie. It was set like this. It was
like
literally
yeah, like he
filmed
first
like
he
a
took off
horror
all
film.
his clothes. Yeah. He was like first took off all his clothes and then it was like, all right, I'm fully impersonating this guy, and then I'm gonna break up with his girlfriend as him
Yes,
in my
as
head.
him, as him in your head.
So there's literally no other conclusion
What?
Dickie could come to watching that and be like, oh,
I mean,
this guy's in love with me. That's
I
the
mean,
only.
what level of Delulu do you have to be for you to come out of that and be
Yes.
like, he just thinks he's my friend. He's just my pal.
Yeah.
We just do rugby together.
That's
We're
just my
just mates.
really good pal. It's
My
just
buddy.
yeah,
He's my
yeah,
buddy.
exactly.
No, that's wild. And then they have that conversation. What did you think? Well, I have two questions, because like just one
Yeah, yeah,
curious, the other one based on this.
yeah.
What did you think of that conversation when Dickie starts to say, like, by the way, like, I'm not queer. Like, like, BTW. Like,
Just to let you know.
don't, like, just to let you know, like, you thought, like, I just want to make sure that wires aren't
Yeah,
crossed here. Like, I'm definitely not queer. Um, I thought that conversation was really straight to the point and quite, it
yeah.
was just so awkward though, and just so stressful to watch.
But I think it's that idea of like Dickie and Marge could tell something's up with this guy. Like
Yeah. He's a
he's not just
freaking
we didn't just meet
weirdo.
him. He just like we did just like yeah. But like the only conclusion you could come to from a normal or
Hmm.
natural perspective is like he just really loves Dickie. That's
Yeah,
from a place of like, oh, you don't know that he has
yeah.
those like scamming tendencies.
Hmm.
He he must. The only thing you could come up with is he must love me. He
Yeah,
must.
but he's coming with like this level of absolute intensity that he's
Yeah,
like
it's like
SPF,
full on.
like SPF 110. You know what I mean? Like
It's,
this is like Love
it's so
Island
heavy on it.
lingo, but you know what I mean? Like he's laying on thick.
I was trying to keep up with that.
Like
Love Island, SPF
SPF,
110.
it's this
Okay.
thing that like they say on Love Island. It's like if you're like, oh, this is so funny. If you're like, trying to like get a girl or whatever on Love Island and you're like laying it on really thick. So you're like,
Oh,
oh,
lay
I
don't
really,
think.
really like you. Yeah, what's one that's been said a lot? Like, I just like everything about you, like everything you say. I just really interested in speaking to you. Like, let's hang out. Let's go out for coffee next week. After coffee, let's go out for a movie. After a movie, let's like move in. Like, you know what I mean? That's like
Exactly.
SPF kind of
Put it
like
on thick.
yeah, exactly. Like they call it like SPF 70, like going really high. So I was like SPF 110. Um, yeah, he just has really intense energy about him,
Yeah.
and you're right. Actually, I never thought about it as the angle of him being in love with Dickie. Actually, is a really good
Hmm.
angle because it
Yeah.
takes away from the intensity of him just being a confidence trickster and an absolute weirdo
Exactly.
who probably wants to
Yeah.
kill you. So you're thinking it's basically like stalker versus murderer.
Yeah.
you know, which do you
Like in
prefer?
your head, you're making the balance of like, oh, this you're trying to rationalize this to yourself, or
Yeah,
like, he's my friend, right? He's my friend. He's just
mhm,
moving a bit further closer to in love with me than my friend. We'll just have to reel that back in. And
exactly.
that's probably we just have to reel that back in.
But do you know who always knew that he was no
Marge was
shit? The housekeeper. The housekeeper.
oh
No,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Marge knew.
She was on
The
100.
housekeeper.
Yeah.
She
The
no,
second she met him.
she meant business from the day she laid her eyes on him.
Yeah.
She was like,
Ooh,
I
I
know
actually
you
have
from
that
around the way. Like, no, no, no. She was like, I know who you are. I know what time you're on.
exactly. That's the thing. I think the way they do the thing of like, I know certain people know what kind of people they are, and like
Hmm.
when that guy who wanted to the guy who steals paintings or sells paintings, I
Yes.
forgot Carlo
Yes.
or yeah, when he was like, oh, we're like, but he's not like, I was like, yeah, everyone could see it except from Dickie that you guys are like,
No,
but
When Dickie was
you him
like,
and Dickie are like,
honestly, Dickie, I really endeared myself to Dickie, but sometimes I was like, oh, get your head out the fishbowl, my dude. When he was like, so is this what you like get up to in New York? Like you just like are you like
yeah,
you do like you do like the
you
gangster
just
stuff? Like do you like is this what you get up to? And I'm like, mate, obviously, like he saw him, he was
oh
marked.
shit, it was
Like
so
he saw his mark.
yeah, that was so easy.
Yeah, no.
Like no one just
So easy.
brings this guy.
And he's
Oh
like,
my
oh no,
days, but
no.
the
So he's like, oh, he's told me that all I have to do is just take this package to Paris.
that's
What?
all.
That's all I have to do. Just take
But
the package to Paris.
in a way, there's a little part of there's a little part of Ripley that just feels like he's actually a little bit like he's just very optimistic. There's a little part of it that's
Yes.
very optimistic and very
No, I agree.
like
I agree.
yeah, like because
He's
like the way he was like,
impressionable.
I really want to go to Paris. I really want to go to Rome. Let me go to.
Yeah, yeah,
Why
yeah.
aren't you guys?
He is.
What's the fridge is not freedom.
Oh my
I need
god. Oh
freedom.
my god.
Oh
The whole thing about the fridge was so
yeah,
funny
that
to
was.
me.
I think that you
I
could
was
definitely
just
see like a
like,
real part of him coming out. Like you're like, this is Ripley. This is what he actually like. This is part of him.
he
Is like he was
jumped
actually
the
liking me.
fuck out with that fridge thing. He
Yeah,
just jumped out.
yeah.
That was so funny. I was laughing the entire time when he was like, "Yeah, a fridge, it's not freedom." And um,
Yeah.
and she goes, "Okay, but what if the food goes
Versus
off?"
the
He
wife
goes,
that it's
"But
oh
like honestly, but I want to touch on that thing you said about him actually being like a bit childlike as well. And I
Hmm.
think something I always think about with these things, you know, the Le Carre novels, and he's like spy. He's got a couple of
I don't
um,
actually know.
novels that he writes. He's one of like a famous kind of like spy novelist, and he was
Spy
also
novels.
a
Yeah.
spy and etc. And I watched his movie, The Pigeon Tunnel, and it was like kind of like a documentary on his work and stuff like that. And he just talks about basically like the criteria for, recruiting someone within a spy, for
Mm.
spies. And it's funny because he talked about similar things to what we're talking about in terms of Ripley being marked by the mafia dude. It's that thing of somewhat impressionable, but also like having a kind of deference to the law, also not having much family,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah, he's like
understanding,
the
like,
perfect person. Yeah,
perfect person, like having like a strictness, but also not wanting to be contained at the same time. So you create your own
mm-hmm.
morality, you create your own paradigms, you live life by your own rules,
Exactly.
that kind
Like
of
certain
thing. So
things
I
are
was
allowed.
just
Like you could definitely, yeah. There's some certain
exactly so
things
like
are
you
hardcore
you
thing.
don't want a fridge, but you're okay like dealing drugs.
Right. Exactly. You're
you
okay
know,
taking drugs or whatever it was to Paris. Like that's
yeah, exactly. So I
these
was just
certain
thinking
morality,
about
these
that.
morality standards.
And it's just so funny because I remember actually this reflected because listeners know this, obviously, as I mentioned, Shuri is my cousin, so he knows the people I'm going to speak about now. But basically, my mother, basically, she said to me, I was on the phone to her and I was telling her about this movie I watched, and this was the day that she asked me whether I was in a cult. And I was explaining to her, like, all of the criterias for being MI5 and stuff like that they were talking about in Pigeon Tunnel. And she was like, that sounds like you. She was basically like, wait, but like, are you trying to tell me that you're in the MI5? I actually promise you this happened to me. So I obviously know a lot about this subject. And clearly, um you know clearly
I
I
can
know
only
I know a
imagine.
lot.
I'm just imagining her saying that.
No, I literally no, you can literally, but you also can imagine her
I can
saying
see.
that.
I can see it.
So I'm actually not even like exaggerating here. Like, this like my actual like blood cousin. Like, that's what I'm talking about. So yeah, it was wild to me because I was like, do you think that if I was in the MI5 I would disclose that to you? Like, would I just be like giving out state secrets right now? Like, no. And I'm like, literally, I don't even cross the street without the without the traffic light changing. Like, let's not.
I'm not that kind of person.
Um,
I'm not that guy.
I'm just not that guy. Like, oop, what can I say to you? Like, oop, it's quite funny. But okay, let's I guess
Mm.
get to like the nitty-gritty of the whole
The
four
big part.
episodes. The big
Yeah,
part, the big
the big
plot
change.
change, go off.
Yeah,
What does he do? He murders
that
him
that that, that yeah, that
at
killer's.
sea,
It was
cold
it was
blood.
detailed. It was detailed.
I mean, details.
For being black and white, it was a lot of red. Like
Yeah, I mean,
you could feel
crimson,
the blood on that.
crimson, crimson. This
Yeah.
this is a show. This is a Shogun reference, but they talk about crimson sky. We're gonna paint the sky crimson, like
So
literally. That
that's
was. I mean, everything was detailed. I feel like I
yeah,
know how to
yeah.
dispose of a body now.
Yeah,
Like,
look, to be honest, if you're gonna dispose of the body, you don't do it that way. He
I
made
mean,
so many
such
mistakes.
an
It
idiot,
feels like
such an idiot.
in my head, I'm just like, these are all things like they're gonna find out. Like, there's no way they don't find out. Like, when are
The
they?
funniest,
It's only a matter
the
of time you're
funny,
gonna get caught.
the funniest part was I think he obviously uses. I think Stephen uses a lot of like theater tricks and stuff like that within this. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot of theater. And at the start, I was going to mention it. It's showing the father talking and then Ripley talking in like different shots, isolated shots, and it's a lot of like theater stuff,
Hmm.
which I guess it goes into that thing of subconscious. There's not much kind of like actual props. It's sort of like in your imagination, you imagine
Yeah.
what's going on. And it's funny going from that to going from him narrating Ripley chasing the boat that is circling him, like we're freaking watching Tom and
Circling
Jerry or
him.
some shit. Like,
Literally. Like. It was a big, like circling him, hits his head. Okay, circles again, hits his head again. And you're like, yo. And then there's this
And then
whole
when you
process,
think
process
he's
of okay,
finished, he
burn the
gets to the
rope.
shore and he continues more.
Oh my days! It was literally. I mean, it's probably very real in that sense of like you just killed someone. You don't really have a plan. Like you probably were just like, oh, kill him, throw the body in the water. It's not that easy. You
But
kill him. Oh, what are you gonna throw the
that's
body in the water with? Anchor.
that's a really good question, though. I was gonna ask you from the start, actually. You talked about this idea of like it wasn't necessarily a descent to madness for him.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think was going on, pre that kind of, him actually killing him? Like on the day, was Ripley thinking like, do I want to kill the love of my
I'm
life?
gonna
Am I
kill
about
him.
to was he like, or was it a thing of like he just got to a point and he was like, actually, I don't like that word. And
To be
therefore you
honest with
must
you,
die.
I think I think it was very premeditated because like when
See?
you there's one point where in my head I was like, okay, when he looked at the typewriter and he was like,
Hmm.
oh, this is what all the letters look like. This is what
Hmm.
all the I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, you want to be him. You want to
He's
be him
studying the
bad.
game.
And
He's
then it's
learning the
like
game.
exactly, it's
Mhm,
like once I get a chance to get rid of you, you're out of there.
mhm.
Yeah, you're
Out of
leaving. But it was literally like, I want to be you. And this
Mhm,
is you're not allowing me be you.
mhm,
So I have to get rid of you so I can be you.
mhm.
That's literally
Yeah,
like
that's so interesting. Is that thing of because often there's this concept of a crush, right? And
yeah,
to what extent, and it happens a lot for teenage girls. To what extent are you crushing on that person because you want to be with them and you
be
like them,
there.
or you want to be
Exactly.
them? You want to emulate
Exactly.
their
What's that
behavior. So
that idea of it's a different kind of love, a different kind
yeah,
of
like it's
lust
a
in that way. It's
different
like,
kind of love, a different like imitation, the greatest form of
yeah,
flattery.
yeah.
But when it's murder, I mean,
He took it all away.
it took it all the way. I mean, why do anything if you don't do it? Go big or go home. Maximalism.
He's not going home. He must stay in Italy.
Literally, this man is never going home. Um, yeah, no, I think it was definitely premeditated, and you saw him
Yeah.
like pensive throughout the day, looking at
Yeah,
things and
exactly.
stuff, and. But yeah, I just want to also raise another thing that I thought about us watching is why does everyone break up at the beach? The amount of people I've heard being like, "Oh, like we went to the beach and that was the day," or like everyone is always somber at the beach. There's always a conversation at the beach. There's always some sort of like conclusory thing going on at the beach. What is it about the beach? I just find like
I
that's
think
like
I think it's two things. Good weather,
okay,
a lot of time on your hands, and there's not a lot to
okay,
do on the beach except from
okay. So
talk.
so you
So you
So, oh my gosh, that's like the point. I like so you're at the wit's end with your relationship, right? And you get to the beach and you're just like
yeah,
fuck all
you're
to do. So you're just like fuck this.
and
You're
then you're like,
done.
what do we do? We talk, and then you're like, what's on my mind? I don't like you. I guess that we're talking about that.
What's on my mind? I don't like you. Basically, like, what are you thinking about? Just how much I hate your guts.
Exactly. Like you're at that point in your life where you're just like, I
Yeah,
really just can't stand you. Uh,
yeah. No, that is so funny. So yeah, so on that topic, what's in your
mhm.
mind? I don't like you. Now, he is Dickie. He is Dickie Greenleaf. What
It's Ripley.
happens?
Yeah,
What
it's
happens
Ripley
now?
went to Dickie Greenleaf.
What happens now? What do you
I
think
the
the
thing is that
next?
he's he's a bad version. He's a bad version of Dickie Greenleaf. He's
Such a
not very good at it.
terrible version.
He still keeps complimenting Dickie Ripley like, oh, but Ripley's a really nice guy in all his messages. So I'm just like, yeah, this guy is just gonna he's
Mate,
gonna
like
fuck up.
mate,
He's gonna fuck up
choose a
bad.
side. Mate, choose a side. Like choose a side. Like pick your fighter. Come
Yeah, pick
on.
your fighter.
No.
But yeah, I don't see him going well. Obviously, I don't think it goes well for him, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I just need to know how fast it goes bad because he's making mistake after mistake after mistake, and
Mistake after
it's only a
mistake.
matter
But
of time.
I think that maybe that's the descent that we're gonna see. His descent,
Yeah.
towards, failing, like the manhunt,
Failing,
essentially, for him
failure.
and
Yeah,
his wife.
exactly.
So what do you expect from like the next four episodes? We didn't talk about Marge much. Marge is
Yeah,
great,
but
but he
that's
might cause
we
panic.
better talk about Mars next. Yeah,
But we're
next
gonna
next
talk
time.
about
We
Marge,
that's
Marge next time
definitely
a
gotta talk
lot.
about
I'm
Mars. We do the
pretty
Mars section.
sure Marge is gonna do something in the
Yeah,
next
she's
few
got to.
in the next
She's
few
got to
episodes.
because
She's very
she's
suspicious at
definitely.
this point. Um,
Yes.
so
I mean,
yeah,
who
what
wouldn't?
are your expectations? What are your expectations for the
um,
direction you think the show is gonna go just to end?
I think we're about to go into that manhunt. We're going into that like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this isn't the one Ripley's gonna find out. This isn't the life that I expected it to be because he can't really live
Mm-hmm.
that life. He's
Mm-hmm.
really not about it. Plus, he doesn't have he's not rich. He's pretending,
Mm-hmm.
but he's not actually
Mm-hmm.
rich. And then Marge is just gonna fight. Like Marge is not gonna give up. The
Mm-hmm.
father's not gonna give up. He killed their son. They're not just gonna leave. Kill him.
I
Like
mean,
they're
I
gonna
mean,
find this guy, but it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
yeah,
What about you?
exactly.
What are
So
your thoughts on
yeah.
that?
Well, my thoughts are like I think it's gonna get way more procedural in terms of,
Mm,
catching him out in smaller ways. It's gonna get way more
mm,
kind of like more of like less of like a horror anticipation, suspense, more of like a, action, like he's running away and he's trying to evade and
mm.
stuff like that. He's evading the popo now. So, and also everyone involved. So yeah, on that note, I guess excited for the next four episodes.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
very excited.
if you ain't about that life, you ain't about that life. There's
That's
nothing
facts.
that can
Don't try to steal
literally like
somebody's life. If you ain't about it, don't try.
literal
Just
facts.
don't try.
So yeah, so please like and subscribe and comment
Yeah.
on things that you liked and review on whatever platform you're listening to. Sign up for our upcoming newsletter. It talks about everything that we're covering and everything else as well. It's kind of fun. And yeah, rate us as well. Like, if you love us, tell us you love us. Tell me you love us.
Hmm.
Yeah. And we'll
Hey,
see you again on Monday
you love
again
me.
for the next events. Yeah. So yeah.
See, this has been good.
See ya.
Thank you for having me.
No
Bye.
problem. And we'll be back. We will be back.